As Africa's leading defense news portal, Defenceweb aims to give you the latest updates on African defense, the South African National Defense Force, and the defense industry. Hi folks, welcome to the past week in defense. In this week's edition, on the continent, Africom continues to combat terrorism in Africa amidst COVID-19. South Africa needs to wake up to the fight against Islamic State, and the importance of border security was highlighted during the Sovereign Security 2020 conference. In SANDF news, the SANDF will play an integral part of the Border Management Authority. Operations continue under COVID-19's new normal. Less than 1.5% of military skill development volunteers are accepted for training, and military skill development graduation was held at the Infantry School. In company news, ALTI signs a partnership agreement with Argentech on UAV distributorship. Kellogg Brown Root receives another US military construction contract for infrastructure in Djibouti. Denel fails to comply with a court ruling to pay salaries, and Chieftain is awarded an SANDF contract for its innovative hooklift trailer container deployment system. And in African defense news, the United States, primarily through its Africa Command, continues to combat terrorism and extremism on the continent in spite of the coronavirus pandemic, especially as it sees terrorism expanding along Africa's east coast. The US Department of State recently held a special digital briefing with Commander of US Special Operations Command Africa, Major General Dagvin Anderson, to discuss US partnerships with African nations to reduce extremism, combat terrorist organizations, and bring about peace and prosperity throughout the African continent. Anderson said African countries are dealing with many threats at the moment, such as food insecurity, droughts, and locust swarms in East Africa on top of COVID-19. Humanitarian crises are fuel for terrorists, which is something US Africa Command is watching closely and looking at addressing holistically, not only via the military, but through a whole-of-government approach. Anderson said, COVID-19 has been a huge disruption, but US Special Operations Forces stay engaged and do not leave the continent. We do not walk away from our partners, we stay engaged. We continue to put pressure on these violent extremists throughout COVID, he said. Anderson concluded his remarks by saying that to adequately address and prevent terrorism, a country must use the wisdom of the international community and engage with underlying problems that violent extremist organizations prey upon. If we're only going to try to kill terrorist leaders, then we're not fully addressing the problem. We have to look at those third and fourth order social effects, economic development, health issues, all of these things that the extremists prey upon that give them a foothold in order to separate them from a legitimate government, he said. With signs of a mounting Islamic State presence in the region, South Africa needs to show urgent political leadership in fighting terrorism, say security analysts. South Africa's desire to be friends with everyone and its continuing to deny the country's terrorism problem are dangerous, says analysts. They are also highly concerned about allegations of political interference in the dropping of cases against terrorist suspects, and that South Africa may have paid groups not to attack the country during the 2010 World Cup. A number of security analysts who track terrorist groups on the continent spoke in mid-August on a webinar organized by SA Jewish Report, the weekly newspaper which serves the local Jewish community. The call for greater backbone from South Africa's political leadership in fighting terrorism came just days after an Islamic State supporting insurgent group seized control of the port of Mocimboa de Praia in the northern Mozambique province of Cabo Delgado. In July, an Islamic State flag, explosives, and weapons were found during a police raid on a house in Klip Rivier south of Johannesburg. Some of the suspects are still at large, but reports suggest that they may be connected to the attacks on a Verulam mosque in KwaZulu-Natal 2 years ago, and the New Year's Eve shooting in Melville and Mary Fitzgerald Square in Johannesburg. It is the attack on Mocimboa de Praia that has raised considerable alarm. As if Islamic State can hold the port for an extended time, the organization could bring in large amounts of supplies and establish a base to expand the area they hold. As offshore oil rigs are supplied through this port, its loss is a serious defeat for the Mozambican security forces and a sign that Islamic State is having some success in its aim of expanding its global reach. In July, Islamic State threatened to open a front in South Africa if Pretoria aids Mozambique in the fight against Ansar al-Sunnah, the main insurgent force in Cabo Delgado province. Border security is increasingly important in light of the coronavirus pandemic literally becoming a matter of life and death. Outgoing Secretary for Defense Dr. Sam Galube said during the 2020 edition of the Sovereign Security Conference, the subject of sovereign security has seldom been more relevant as the coronavirus pandemic radically changes the world we live in and makes matters of border security and homeland security ones of life and death, he told delegates during the remote conference on the 6th of August. Border security has always been a contentious topic in South Africa, as our borders are a source of entry for undocumented persons, drugs, council theft goods, and other contraband. With the spread of the coronavirus, we can ill afford to let people cross our borders illegally, especially if they are infected or become the source of transmission of infection not only into South Africa but also out. We can expect to see more people lawlessly moving across Africa as the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic grows, and this will see an influx into South Africa as it is one of the hubs of economic development in the region. Strong borders are also needed for economic security to prevent untaxed, illegal, or contraband goods from coming and going and hurting our economy. Since our lockdown started in March this year, we have seen a major increase in the smuggling of cigarettes, which is not only against state and national disaster regulations, but is also putting money into the hands of criminal networks as well as terrorist networks operating in our region. We need about 22 companies of soldiers on the borders, but due to budget constraints, our borders are protected by 15 companies of soldiers. But our air borders are actually exposed, and more needs to be done to strengthen the security of our air, land, and sea and other territorial integrity areas. Improving sea borders is also imperative in contributing to the Blue Ocean's economy, which is a major component of Operation Fakisa, Galube said. And in SANDF news, the SA National Defence Force will play an important role in the Border Management Authority, BMA, in safeguarding South Africa's air, land and sea borders. The BMA was signed into law by President Cyril Ramaphosa at the end of July. It will replace different agencies and organs of government, all playing different roles in managing aspects of border control, ensuring effective and efficient border law enforcement functions at ports of entry and borders. The new law provides for the establishment, organization, regulation, functions and control of the BMA, the appointment of its commissioner, deputy commissioners and officials. The law provides for terms of office, conditions of service and functions and powers. The BMA law will also see establishment of an interministerial consultative committee, border technical committee and advisory committees. These will review or appeal decisions of officers and define offences and penalties. Elroy Africa, head of the Border Management Authority Project Office within the Department of Home Affairs, told the Sovereign Security Conference on the 6th of August that although the President has signed the BMA Act into law, the authority does not yet exist, but will hopefully become operational soon. He said the Department of Home Affairs has been trusted with the responsibility to give birth to this organ of state. The SANDF will keep its exclusive mandate regarding border protection and will cooperate with and complement the BMA. However, the BMA Act formally excludes the SANDF from Border Management Authority decisions. COVID-19, the disease that is claiming the lives of just under 2% of those infected in South Africa, is shutting down businesses and throwing already struggling citizens further into poverty. The disruption the disease has brought is seen in every facet of life, including the functioning of the SANDF. The SANDF's Operation Notlela to fight the spread of COVID-19 has turned thousands of soldiers into frontline workers. Defenceweb recently had the chance to interview Joint Operations Operational Communication Officer Navy Captain Yaku Tienersen to discuss how Operation Notlela is going, as well as the border security Operation Corona and the SANDF peacekeeping efforts. The number of SANDF personnel on the ground for Operation Notlela is just over 8,000, but Tienersen said that the SANDF has made provision for 20,000 soldiers to be deployed, although it does not mean there are physically 20,000 soldiers on the ground, but there is provision to grow the deployment rapidly. The SANDF has deployed its healthcare workers as well as soldiers to help screen and test people for COVID-19, and to date, just under 100,000 civilians have been screened, with nearly 5,000 testing positive for the virus. The SANDF has also been utilizing inflatable tents to augment hospitals, and Tienersen said, the main function taking place at these hospitals as a core function is assisting with scanning and screening, and then if there is a requirement for other specific medical services. The South African Military Health Service has also been deployed to the Eastern Cape to bolster healthcare facilities and personnel there, which is one of the 3 national COVID-19 hotspots. More than 100 military medics are serving in the Eastern Cape. Tienersen said that Operation Corona to safeguard South Africa's borders is still running normally, with some augmentation taking place. At the start of South Africa's state of disaster, Tienersen said one of the functions of the SANDF was to augment borderline patrols. One of the SA's Navy's offshore patrol vessels has been assigned to the northeastern coastline and border of South Africa. The SA Air Force has also been tasked to augment the SANDF's capability to protect its borders. The coronavirus pandemic has affected military exercises, but not mission readiness training. All military exercises, both internally and with other countries, have been cancelled for 2020, including shared accord with the United States. Mission readiness training has been taking place ahead of 15 South African infantry battalions' deployment to the Democratic Republic of Congo later this year, replacing 2 South African infantry battalions. Yet another snapshot of the sorry South African unemployment situation and the continuously declining defence budget can be gleaned from figures tabled in the Parliament, which show more than 600,000 applications to the National Defence Force for its Military Skills Development (MSD) program over the 5-year period. The figure is contained in response to a parliamentary question posed by Economic Freedom Fighters representative Goodrich Gardier to Defence and Military Veterans Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Ngakula. He was told a paltry 9,306 of the 648,039, which equates to just under 1.5%, who applied were accepted for a 2-year period, including basic military training, further mustering specific training such as firefighting or medical corpsmen, and deployment to specific units over the 5 years from January 2014 to December 2019. Successful MSD volunteers go to one of the 4 services, Air Force, Army, Military Health, and Navy, on completion of basic military training. On completion of the 24-month stint in uniform, a minority of MSD volunteers are offered regular force contracts in the SA National Defence Force. 183 of the 9,306 who made it through selection did not complete the MSD program. The beginning of August saw graduation for 889 military skills development volunteers on successful completion of basic military training at the SA Army Infantry School in Oudtshoorn. A passing out parade at the school in the Western Cape Town was attended by SA Army Chief Lieutenant General Lawrence Mbata. In addition to being a review officer for the parade, 3-star General presented awards to the cream of the budding soldier crop, who go on to other formations and divisions in the Landward Force to continue training as part of their 24-month commitment to the SANDF. 641 of those who graduated basic military training are male, with the balance 241 female. And in company news, Niger-based unmanned aerial vehicle specialist ALTI has signed a partnership agreement with the United States Argentech to supply the US government with the vertical takeoff and landing testing vehicle. The collaboration started off as a simple reseller agreement, which included the opportunity for Argentech to sit in and take part in the ALTI transition training course to be able to assist clients with basic requests as and when needed. This led to further discussions around Argentech being able to fulfill a role as an official training service provider in the United States, ALTI said. Certain limitations made it difficult for ALTI to deal directly with the government agency in question and led to the collaboration on the project between ALTI and Argentech. As Argentech is a systems integrator and UAV training provider, it was natural for it to become an official distributor for ALTI and an official training facility for clients in the USA, ALTI said. The ultimate goal of the partnership is to make aircraft solutions readily available to clientele in the United States, making the option available to clients able to get training done in their own country. ALTI says it is Africa's largest UAV manufacturer and offers 3 aircraft, the Ascend, Transition and Reach. Standing out from the other UAVs built in South Africa is the Transition, which can take off vertically using 4 battery-powered rotors and then transition into horizontal flight, where it is powered by a petrol engine. This does away for the need for runways or complex launch and recovery methods. Since establishment, ALTI has shipped over 1,000 unmanned aircraft. It is currently working on several new products, including a new multi-rotor and all-electric vertical takeoff and landing range, as well as a 19 and 21-foot unmanned surface vessel. Kellogg Brown Root has received a $75 million contract from the US Department of Defense for construction projects at Camp Lemonnier and Shabelle Airfield in Djibouti after beating 5 other proposals. The Pentagon announced the contract on 5th of August. It said the work to be performed provides for various renovations, repairs, maintenance, replacements, alterations, demolition and construction projects for Camp Lemonnier and Shabelle Airfield, Djibouti. Work is expected to be completed by September 2025. Kellogg Brown Root has received multiple contracts from the US for the support of Camp Lemonnier and led its conversion from a former French Foreign Legion outpost into a sustainable US military base. The company has provided full-spectrum base operation support services at Camp Lemonnier, including airfield operations, housing, galley, vehicle maintenance, water and wastewater facility operations, solid waste management, fuel and key life support and recreation services. State-owned Denel cannot honour a Labour Court ruling to pay outstanding salaries, according to a letter reportedly from lawyers representing the ailing defence and technology conglomerate to at least one trade union. Denel was last in early August ordered to settle outstanding salaries for employees by no later than Friday 7th of August, and at the same time ensure payments were made for tax, medical aid and pension funds, amongst others. Denel's lawyers said it is unable to comply with the court order and asked unions for an indulgence to enable it to work on measures to raise funds. The loss-making state-owned defence company has struggled to pay salaries for several months this year. Its wage bill amounts to nearly 150 million rand a month. Trailer specialist Chieftain Africom has been awarded a multi-million rand contract by Arms Corps to supply a world-first fully integrated hooklift trailer to the South African National Defence Force for use in the Project Teamstar field kitchen capability. Chieftain said that Project Teamstar is an SANDF initiative to upgrade the field kitchen and ancillary facilities, replacing existing capabilities with more modern diesel-fired technology. The focus of the project was to enable the deployment of equipment in 6-meter converted shipping container modules. The Chieftain hooklift trailer will be the fundamental logistical solution to transporting and mobilizing the 6-meter containers. The Chieftain hooklift trailer evolved from a proven commercial off-the-shelf trailer to a purpose-built, fully developed military off-the-shelf container handler that can load or offload a 6-meter container within 3 minutes. As the trailer has its own power supply, alleviating the need for hydraulics on the towing vehicle, it can be towed by a multitude of different vehicles. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our daily and weekly newsletter, and our other social media platforms if you enjoyed the webcast. Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.